Okay, good morning, everybody. My name's Michael Baddeley. I've been designing and building and painting 3D printed animatronic droids for about seven or 8 years. Difficult to introduce yourself, but I put a little slide together here, and in true tech and geekery style, I asked ChatGPT to tell me about Mr. Baddeley. So it's really what we've done is over the past 7 or 8 years, is we've stretched the capabilities, the durability of 3D printing to try and not just create static models, but actually trying to create things that are fully animatronic. We've got a community of about 33,000 people or so now that of lunatics all over the world, really, that kind of build these things. But at the heart of what we do is absolutely 3D printing and really starting to look at what the latest filaments, latest technologies, and stretch, what the capabilities of this tech. One of the questions I often get asked is how did I really start with this? Because I think when you start to look at what we do, so I've just done this remote. When you look at what we do, there's a lot of skills that's involved in building full-size animatronic props. So we've kind of got 3D modeling, we've got painting, you've got weathering, you've got electronics, you've got sound. So it kind of it goes over the whole spectrum of STEAM, effectively, science, technology, arts, etc. And getting started, particularly building these things, can be a little bit overwhelming for some people. Where I started is I inherited that little device, which was a MakerBot Replicator 2X, and anybody who's been around in 3D printing may well recognise those. It was horrendous. You had to wrestle with it, and I know you have to wrestle with 3D printers generally, but that one was for me, it was quite a learning challenge. And on top of that, the standard filament that I chose to start to print with was ABS. So I learned an awful lot of how thermoplastics contract and warp and how you design accordingly. I'm glad I started. If I started with PLA, I don't think we've got quite as much discipline. Inheriting it and then printing things on Thingiverse, the next thing is I wanted to create something of my own, to learn how to do CAD. And there was a small program called 123D Design by AutoCAD, really simple. So I got that and I thought, what can you design? So I chose to design the head of R2D2. The logic behind that was, it's a ball, you cut it in half, it's pretty easy to do, isn't it? So I designed the dome, and then I also started to share the dome on Thingiverse. And I discovered this community of people across the globe that were the R2D2 Builders Club. So these enthusiasts that their focus was building R2D2 onto Star Wars. And I had quite a nerve at that time, 7 or 8 years ago, because actually constructing R2D2 out of plastic or constructing it out of the sheets that we had was relatively easy, apart from the dome. To construct a dome, it was very, very difficult. So I then got lots and lots of messages from this group saying, this is fantastic. We can now, we now got easily accessible domes. Before we had to wait until people did park runs and things like that. Immediately followed by them telling me how inaccurate my dome was that I created. So these guys are obsessed, to a millimetre or to a degree or an angle. So what we did is kind of evolve the design of the dome and started. It's not working. It's going to be fine. I'll stick with the reliability of pressing buttons, I think. Yeah, so really, then I dropped onto Thingiverse, started to share the dome. Unfortunately, it's not like a Facebook profile picture, which is one that you can see up there. And what I've been doing, I've been messing around with Photoshop. So I'd created this particular image. I've done a few of them, but one, a white hat, a cravat, a moustache, it was all false. And it was my Facebook profile picture. And I put it onto Thingiverse. And of course, because of this community that wrapped around and went, this is fantastic dome. I set a certain expectation of what I look like, which has been incredibly disappointing for everybody that I've met ever since. Because I was like, where's your cravat? Where's your handlebar moustache? And it almost became kind of almost a brand. And then this guy, a guy called Andrew Phillips, he was one of the first people that started to build this, and he said to me, he said, these designs are fantastic. He said, where's your build group? Where's your patron? She sent me the link. I said, yeah, of course I can. And I Googled what build groups and patron was. I had no idea what these things were. So I actually then, first of all, started to create the Facebook for that, and then the subsequent patron. This is about 7 or 8 years ago when these things were quite new and fresh. So I've got a lot to thank for Andrew, because he really started to build this community. When I set the community up, one of the things I really wanted to create was a community of people that build. At that time, there was a tendency to say, you've got to read all the build blogs, go and read the manuals, you've got to do all the research. I wanted to create a group that was really nice, really cool, really friendly. You could ask really stupid questions and everybody would just kind of answer. So we set this group up, and we set it really as almost, and I call them lunatics, because you've got to be quite insane to start to build these really big things in 3D printers, considering you can only print parts out so big, or you could do at the time. So we set this community up, but on the proviso that it was really, I hate using the word inclusive because it's a commonly used word, but what it was is it was friendly, it was happy, it was cool. I think we've all been on internet Facebook groups and forums where everybody gets a bit grumpy and you get all these kind of trolls and wars. And I really wanted to kind of avoid that. So these are our rules. We have a couple of rules, for new members, ask all the stupid questions you want. The experienced members, share what you've learned and ask more stupid questions. And for those that have been doing it for years, remember how you started, but also recognise that you don't know things and you're learning things. And there's some brilliant examples that we've had in the past where we had the first robotics team, which was a bunch of, I don't know if you know the group, it's a bunch in the US of school children, and what they do is they build robotics. And we had a Zoom meeting, and we had a bunch of these 50-year-old, very experienced Droid builders who were there to share everything that they knew about the technology. So this school group came on, these Droid builders shared all that they knew about servos and all they knew about remote control and how they proudly demonstrated their creations. And the kids listened very, very politely. And then we said, what are you building? So we're building this robot that plays basketball. And the room went silent because the technology that they were creating and what they were sharing was far advanced of what we do. So really, even the most experienced can still kind of learn from that. But the most important thing for us is that, in true style of Fonzie, is to be cool and just to be nice with people. I said at the beginning, one of the things that we really wanted to do was push the boundaries of 3D printing. When we first did the dome and R2D2 was a terribly designed robot, it's on 3 legs, it's all stuck out, there's lots of stresses that go on. So I was convinced that what we could do is actually 3D print a full one of these. I was told by a number of the traditional builders that this was impossible. So I was, we've got wood, we've got styrene, we've got metal, and I wanted to kind of push the boundaries onto 3D printing. And I remember this American guy, he came on and he said, we can't 3D print an R2D2, it can't cope with the stress. And then he sat on his R2D2 and he drove it around. And it frustrated the hell out of me. I was kind of like, I want to do that at some point on a 3D printed Droid, which is why recently what we've been doing is we've been doing the mini bikes. This is one of the bikes that I've designed. You can see there we've got 2 people sat on top, no wires and no CGI. And then we've got these little baby astromechs, as we call. So this was my therapy of actually doing a 3-legged R2D2 that I could sit on and drive around, and you look absolutely ridiculous. Been described as a moving toilet. I'm not too bothered about the aesthetics of it, but actually what I managed to do is get that whole thing out of the system. It's also incredibly badly designed and very easy to fall off. So if you've got one, I would do really look at kind of making sure we're safe. The other stretch then is around complexity and fun. So I don't know if anybody here has seen Andor, which is on Disney Plus. It's a new Star Wars series. This is B2EMO out of that episode. And B2EMO has the design that's there, the one that I did, it's got 20 channels. So there's 20 independent things that move in where its head's moving, is moving back and forth, it's lifting up and down, his rings spin, his legs move out. So what we're playing with really is that complexity. We're also playing around with things like self-balancing technology. This is one of the favourites that you bring to time of events. It's got a Dobby, little ball about that size, really cute, kind of rolls around and bumps into people. So I wanted to stretch, again, constantly stretching what we can do with both 3D printing, but also the wraparound around technology. The other thing that we're playing around is actually, yeah, so with the other one was around speed and actually getting things to kind of, as you can see there, we've got a little pit drive that drives this thing. It's like so small. And this was a precursor to the death racers. So at 12:30, I think today we've got in the front foyer, we've got the death racers. It's a crazy event. It actually works better in America because Americans love smashing things up that they've made. British people go, oh dear, it's falling off, I don't like this. Whereas Americans are like, yeah, it's just falling to pieces and it's on fire. They love that kind of thing. So all of that mayhem and madness we will see outside later today around the death racers. This is my pug Darcy, who discovered death racers. So she quite likes playing around with that little pit droid. And then this last one was something again I was playing around with the motors within the tracks, and these things go at incredible speed. And all the drive on those, all the gearing, or even the tracks are all 3D printed. So we print the tyres out of TPU, out of flexible filaments. We've got kind of gearing in there. The only thing that's not 3D printed is the motors and the electronics. This is a second version with all of the skins off of B2EMO, so you can see some of the things that we've got going in there. What's interesting when you try to recreate movie or film things like R2D2 or B2EMO is in the film industry, they've got a model for each scene that they do. So they'll have one that does another one that arms come out, and another one where it'll go from 2 legs to 3 legs. So when we're doing droid building, we're trying to pack all of that into the space. And every time I start to design something new, I always go, it's actually a big square empty box. This time, there'll be loads of room inside. And then when you start to put more technology in, you start to put more gears, you realise that the room suddenly disappears and you're trying to squeeze batteries into smaller pieces, into small areas. So really, these are a vast amount, kind of majority of stuff that we create. What it has done for the community is it's given us a lot more variety in what we can actually take out to events. We do a lot of Comic-Cons, Star Wars events, we do children's hospitals, charity fundraising. And what we've done in the past really is taking R2D2 or standard Astromex, and now you'll probably see from the droid display that we've got at the front of the building, we've got this kind of vast variety now of builds. We've also got the baby droids, which are the ones along the top. And I would recommend on the 3rd floor here, we've got the droid builders steam room. So in there, you can drive one of those. If you can drive it around a little course correctly, you get a driving license for an astromech. So if you can have your own driving license, you can pass your test. But these are the sorts of things that we take to events. There's also some little bug bots so that you can build these things and scrabble around, and you can take them away. So there's some giveaways as well, other kind of stuff up there. And as you can see on there, we've now got a lot more variety in what we actually design and build. One of my favourite designs that I've done so far is the one in the middle. Does anybody know what the big droid there is called? Got no Star Wars nerds in the room. You're all rubbish. Yeah. No, that one's Chopper. He's out of Star Wars Rebels, which is an animated series. He's actually lesser known to not in the films, but actually as a character, he's probably one of the best characters. A very, very grumpy robot. I think he's got the highest kill rate in all of the Star Wars. He's actually killed thousands and thousands of people in Rebels. It's one of my favourite overall designs. Another part we do is, as I said, we do a lot of fundraising, And certainly within the group, COVID, I think, as we all know, was an interesting time for us. We started a Zoom call back in 2000 when COVID started, and then we had regular fundraising because we used to do this when we went out to charity events and hospitals, and we couldn't do it, so we started to do things virtually. And it was fantastic because not only did it raise a lot of money, but we actually built connections across the globe. So the American builders, the UK builders, the Spanish builders, we all started to come together as a single community. And it means now that when we go across to events across the seas, you end up meeting friends you've kind of done through that, and also raising some great money for a great cause. The other thing we like to do is celebrate failure. We were having one of our Zoom calls, and there's a guy on there called Rick who in a lull said, "Oh, I've got an interesting video to share," and so this has kind of become a little bit of a meme within the group. He was working on his droid, he dropped a bolt in there, and suddenly the whole thing kind of set on fire. And what that generated, and it's something that it's called a rip wave. So if anything sets on fire, what we do is we do this and stop again. Yes, you can see that the flames going out there, they're blowing it, and then so that's our rip wave. But in summary, as I said, it was a band of lunatics. We are a very passionate group about what we do, a lovely bunch of folks. I would recommend if anybody wants to take 3D printing to start to build these things, go and chat to the guys at the front, or join the Facebook groups. You can find these on here if you just search Droid Builders, or if you search for Mr. Baddeley on Facebook. There's some QR codes there if anybody wants to scan those now to do that. I'm pretty much at time now. I think we've got about 5 minutes or so for any comments, observations, thoughts, or questions. And if you're all silent, I feel that I've done a terrible job. So I need somebody brave.
Yes, you mentioned you started with an old makeup. Is there anything kind of with modern printers that you feel is kind of lacking or could really help what you do?
Yeah, one of the R2D2's dome is 463 millimeters in circumference, which is very sad that we know that. So 500 millimeter beds are really quite useful for us. So the bed size is quite critical. Personally, at the moment, I'm running 4 bamboos, and I'm running Bruce's. So I flip between the two. I love Bruce's. I love the ethos and stuff and the story behind Prusa, but also I've got to recognise that the technology behind bamboo is just kind of an engine. The biggest challenge I've got then is on bed size. The XL's 360, so it's not too bad. But what we ideally want is something around that size. We do cut them into smaller pieces, and actually it's less stressful running a 4-hour print to get one piece and then 4-hour print to another one. You know, I used to have a Creality CR10 S5, which is a 500 mil print bed, and so doing a dome on that was between 7 and 11 days, and it's 7 to 11 days of complete stress. If you had a power cut, if you had a filament jam, if you had anything, it was a disaster. So yeah, so reliability and bed size is one that's most important to us. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
I must apologise for getting late, but I get why this is about 3D printing, but do you ever have to go to other technology, building more CNC, like laser cutting and milling and stuff like that? How easy is that on being able to produce?
Yes, it's a brilliant question, because what I've focused on in 7 years is getting 3D printing technology to go side by side with CNC, with milling, with all of those tech. They've been in place in Droid building for quite some time. Where we are now is we're now starting to push a lot of hybrid stuff. So you know, if you look at things like that, this B2 Evo, with like weight design, it does stretch the stresses. So a couple of metal plates, CNCs, make a huge difference. And what we've got now is there's a lot of places where you can send off the CAD for the smaller pieces and actually get them manufactured and sent back for relatively cost effective. So it's relatively cheap. Design wise, it's very different because with 3D printing, you can design anything in a full 3D print space. When you're starting to move into the world of CAD, you've got to understand of building, etc. You've got to understand the manufacturing process. So designing stuff in plates, standard connectors and things like that. So you've got a bit more than, but absolutely, it's now moved towards quite a hybrid model on there with 3D printing being a very useful tool. Any more? Yes, sir.
Have there been any changes in material availability like to really help your progress? Because you said it started with ABS, so like what's your go-to now?
My go-to at the moment is PETG. I love ABS because you can acetone weld the ABS, and it's beautiful for that reason. It also sands incredibly well. The challenge with ABS is just warping. It's, you know, on larger parts, it's a real challenge. PETG is probably the best of both worlds because it's got some of the degree of flexibility and strength of ABS. It's temperature resistant, so where we've got guys that are building these in Nevada, not in the UK, but somewhere where we've got sun, they need filament that can withstand that without warping. So PETG is a really good hybrid. It's not the challenge with PETG is you can't get anything to stick to it. If you use 2-part epoxy resin, for example, it will just peel off. PETG is like almost like Teflon, so that's one of the downsides. So I've been playing with pseudo mechanical and epoxy kind of fixing. So what you do is put a ridged hole, kind of use drum screws, and then they bed in there, so you've got a mechanical fix as well. But yeah, PETG is kind of a go-to at the moment. Yeah.
How much post-processing do you obviously talk about the whole build process and printing, so you haven't talked anything about the post-processing, like sanding down, spraying, painting.
Yeah.
How much compared to like the print time processing, is it much more?
It's probably 50-50. The mantra is sand, fill and repeat. That's what we talk about. In the UK and in Europe, there's some amazing stuff called motive spray putting. So, and there's all sorts of fillers and there's all sorts of stuff, but this motive spray putting, it's got a weird consistency where it fills layer lines incredibly well. It doesn't drop into detail as models. So it's really nice. It's absolutely perfect. So my build is I'll build something and I'll throw on before I touch it. I'll throw in about 4 or 5 layers of motive and then I'll sand it. That whole process can take, on a big droid, it can take me half an hour to 40 minutes of sanding. Without motive, it's sand, it's paint, it's getting the high spots. It's a lot longer process. So but it is. The other thing is you're offsetting print speed against finish speed. So if you start to look at things like domes where towards the top you want your layer height at 0.1, so you're not getting many steps. If you start doing big layer height, you get steps, and then so there's an offset on print speed. So most of us tend to use variable printing so that actually we get the best finish that we can get with a lot of motive on it, sanding. The Americans haven't got it, but motive, so they hate us. They actually do a lot more post work. It's a little break. Any more questions? Good time? No? Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully that was useful. I'll be around the next 2 days, and on floor 3, if you want to have a look at the steam room, please do, because we're a little bit out of the way, but actually some real cool stuff to play around in there, and have a little dip into your toe of programming or coding or building. Thank you.